Dear champions, we are starting our first example when we play against the exposed king. As we know, whenever the opponent's king is exposed, we should attack. This king is weak because the pawn structure in front of it is damaged. And there is one big fundamental rule when we are playing against the exposed king and overall when we are attacking. The rule is bring your pieces to the attack. Now, pause the video, think about your actions here for white. How would you play? Here, if you thought about queen g4 check, trying to bring the strongest piece, it's very logical. However, after king h8, knight f5, black is getting the rook g8 move, defending the checkmate from g7. While defending, our opponent will try to do everything, find the most creative defense, because if they allow us to succeed, we are going to checkmate. So, this time, black is defending the g7 square. Initially, it would be smarter not to show all of our cards, but just play knight f5. This is a good square for our piece. It's opening up the rook, opening up the bishop, and now we may have several threats. Already, queen g4 check queen g7 is a mating idea. How to play for black? They can try to defend in several scenarios. Let's imagine they go same king h8. Now we don't go queen g4 because of rook g8 move. But we can play better. We go rook to h3, again bringing the piece to the game. Here black can play rook g8. What will be your continuation here? If you watch it, the Tactic Ninja course, you might be finding this. While attacking, we need also to be very careful. Here, the obvious queen h5 suddenly loses because of queen g2 checkmate. Oops, I hope you didn't blunder this. So after rook g8, white can play rook h7 check. King takes and queen h5. This is the power of the concept. Whenever you just start bringing your pieces, you are not immediately seeing all of the potential threats you may have in that position. However, once the pieces are in the game, suddenly you see 1, 2, 3 and more threats. So that's the power of bringing the pieces. After knight f5, black can try to defend the checkmate also with bishop f8 move. However, now this bishop defends on g7 but covers the 8th rank. How can we use this one? White can play now queen g4 check, would be the same if we start with rook g3 by the way. And after king h8, go rook g3. Now queen g8 is the mating threat and bishop cannot leave the square because queen g8 is mating and the squares on the king side are busy. For this reason, white's winning again. After knight f5, black defends with knight e6. This time the knight is defending the square on g7 and the 8th rank is closed. Seems logical to find another target. And here it is, the pawn on h7. We can start with rook h3, or again queen to h5 moves. Let's say rook a d8, black is also trying to bring some defenders. And now, rook g3 check is not bringing us too many benefits. We will throw opponent's king to h8, take on f7. That sounds great, but it's much more powerful to immediately attack on h7. Now we want to take and it will be a checkmate on the next move. If black defends with knight f8, pay attention, this knight is leaving the defense of the g file. However, we need to use this in a correct way. Pause the video and think about it. If you thought here to go queen g4 check, it's not working. Black can defend with knight g6 move. However, after knight f8, we can go queen h6, keeping the multiple threats. Queen g7 is a mate, but also queen is keeping an eye on h7. So black cannot go knight e6 because of queen h7 check, king f8, and queen h8 checkmate. Overall, champions, we have seen that whenever opponent's king is exposed, our main idea is to bring many resources to the attack. Of course, I am not telling you bring all the pieces on the board. Bring as much material as required. Usually this is the condition, as many pieces you have, as powerful your attack is becoming. Now let's go ahead and see another example where we're going to bring the pieces to the attack. Dear champions, here we have another example when the opponent's king is exposed. Why black king is weak, as we know, there is no pawn in front of it, some weak squares, weak g-file. We need to bring our pieces, as we have learned. I have a question for you. How to do that for white? You can pause the video and think about it. If at the moment you are thinking about queen g4 check, this sounds interesting. Queen with a tempo goes closer to the king. However, black will go king h8. Now our queen alone will not be able to do much. And that's why we need to bring the pieces and do it little differently at the beginning. White with a tempo plays rook a to d1. Now opponent's queen is under attack. Black cannot play knight to d4. Even though it defends the queen on the d file, this loses some material. There are many options. One of them is to play bishop takes d4, and after pawn takes, we have a check on g4. After that, we are capturing the pawn on d4, staying with the material advantage, and still opponent's king will be weak. That's the reason that after rook a d1, black plays something like queen to c7. Now queen goes closer, queen to h5. We're just bringing the pieces. The strongest attacker is already there. By the way, about the importance of the queen in attack, we are going to talk in the next video. Here, to surround the king with the defenders, black plays knight to e7. This is a good strategy, and if you are getting under attack, think about it to bring more defenders closer to your king. Now, we need to continue this attack for the white side. What will be your ideas? You can pause the video one more time and think about that. Let me tell you that the heavy pieces are playing not only well through the open files, but using some ranks as well. White here plays rook d3, and it's a very common way to bring the rooks into the attack. This rook is threatening to go sometimes to g3 or to h3 squares. Black continued, knight g6. Since the g file is closed, there is no value in playing rook to g3 move. White goes rook h3. Suddenly, the pawn on h7 is hanging, so black has to defend it, going knight to f8. At this moment, if we try to play rook g3 check, again, there is no big value in this. Black will be able to defend with knight g6. So, after knight f8 move, we need to bring more pieces into the play. How will you do this? Once again, you can pause the video and think about it. One of the possible options is to bring the other rook to the attack, rook e1, rook e3, rook g3. However, in that conditions, we might have some back rank issues. For a little while, white decides to leave the rook on f1, and we have another inactive piece, bishop on c3. This pawn on e5 is blocking our bishop, and since there are many weak dark squares on the king side, we need this piece into the game. How we bring this? You are right, we go bishop to d2. At this moment, white has different threats, going bishop h6, trying to destroy his defender, sometimes going bishop g5, and what's the sad part for black, they have no options to prevent the attack. They cannot bring more defenders, moving the f-pawn will just lose the material and we're going to capture it, so there is no value in this as well, otherwise how to be. After bishop d2, black tried to play something like rook a d8, hoping to activate the piece. However, this rook now is getting under a tempo, we can continue bishop to g5. There is no queen takes e5 because the rook is hanging, and after something like rook d5, white plays bishop f6. The game is suddenly finished. What's the thing? Now white has a deadly threat. White wants to go queen h6 and queen g7 checkmate. Black cannot prevent it. There is no way to move the knight because pawn h7 is hanging, and also there is no way to defend the square on g7. So black's position is hopeless, and as you have seen, bringing the pieces is a very powerful, at the same time easy to remember technique when the opponent's king is exposed. As I have mentioned, in the next video we're going to talk about the importance of the queen in the attack. Let's go ahead and see it. Champions, In this example, we are going to learn importance of the queen in the attack. That's the strongest piece. But before going deeper into the details, I invite you to pause the video and think, how would you play here as black? We can identify that the opponent's king is exposed, and attacking on it can be a good idea. Pawn structure is broken, and we would like to keep the rule which we have learned previously. Bring the pieces. And in this sense, we need to know queen is the strongest attacking piece. Once it's joining, the attack is becoming exponentially better. If here you thought about the idea of bringing the queen, and the most direct way is to go queen e7, followed by queen h4, that's the great result. Once the strongest piece is joining the game, as I have mentioned, attack is getting much more stronger. So that's the idea. Queen goes to h4 here for black, and white is getting a big troubles. Immediately we're creating mating threats and a lot of problems for the opponent. Now, I invite you to go ahead to our next example when we're going to make a combined attack with our pieces. Dear warriors, here we have an interesting spot. Opponent's king is exposed, bad pawn structure, many weak squares. However, taking a look at this position, we can see that the concentration of white pieces is on the king side. Turns out we will need to bring our resources. How to make it? What can be your ideas? Pause the video and think about it. If now you are thinking about playing something like knight to d2, bring this piece into the game, that's correct. Idea is overall right, and later on we can bring the bishop, bring the queen. But the thing is, bishop on the way of our queen is making our game slower, and white has a brilliant idea here. The starting move is bishop to d7, attacking on the rook with the tempo, and after rook e7, bishop c6 check. Already one extremely powerful piece is next to opponent's king. Whenever we bring more, we are going to have a super cooperation. And as we discussed previously, now we need to bring the strongest piece. Knight goes to d2. The diagonal now is clear. Queen is aiming for dangerous a6 square. Understanding this, black can try to go rook g8, but they are simply not on time. g4 isn't possible because white goes queen e2. And now g4, which is being played already, is just an attempt to create a counterplay. The thing is, white king is safe, pawn structure is solid, black is little behind in this attack. And after queen a6 move, white immediately creates a lot of dangerous threats. Only way to defend the checkmate on b7 square is to go knight d8, and now white's position is just winning. This was the important idea which we were going to learn, bringing the pieces. Here white can go a4, pawn a5 is just unstoppable, winning the bishop. Another option can be to go knight to c4, rook c3, b3, a3, creating the further threat. Either way, white's position is winning. I really like this example and I wanted to show you this no matter what. Once again, let's go back to the beginning position. When at the beginning we see this visual picture, pieces so far away from opponent's king, it's hard to imagine that in 4 or 5 moves they are going to be so close to opponent's king. This means whenever you think about bringing the pieces, turn on your imagination and many interesting maneuvers will be possible. Now I invite you to go ahead and get started with our test example. So dear champions, do you recognize this position? We have seen it previously in the introduction part of this course. Here it's white to move. Now you have enough knowledge to figure out the right idea and make the correct decision. Pause the video and go for it. Opponent's king is exposed. It's not like there is only a single way to use this. If you thought about playing rook c3 here, rook d3 in order later on to take these pieces to the king side, it sounds logical. It's also good to go knight h4, immediately using a good location for our piece, opening the queen and creating the threats. Black goes king h8, knight to f5. a very small part of the idea is complete. One of the pieces came to a very powerful spot around the opponent's king. Black also needs to bring the pieces, and they are trying to surround the king side with the defenders. They go knight d7. As mentioned previously, the idea we need to make is to go rook c3. Rook d3 was also possible. Rook to g8 and rook h3. You have seen the similar idea in the course, and there is a concrete threat available here for white. Pause the video and think about it. What would you do if it's white to move? The beautiful threat is rook h7 check, king takes, and queen h5 checkmate. For this reason, after rook h3, black needs to defend it on h7. They can continue knight f8. Now, our sacrificing ideas aren't working, and white is going to bring even more pieces. We continue rook to d3, queen d7. Here we don't go rook h4, because in some occasions knight g6 can be a tempo. We go immediately rook to h5. It's really tough to play here for black. They go rook e8, trying to bring more pieces into the game, and rook d to h3. Right now, we have two pieces attacking it on h7. And again, the sacrificing idea of rook h7, knight takes. Rook takes and king takes is winning for white because of queen h5 checkmate. So for this reason, after rook h3 move, black goes rook g6. Now they are making available a square on g8, and at the end of the line, which we have seen, we won't be mating. For this reason, white needs to find improvement in that idea. Pause the video and make your decision. Here white plays rook h7 check, but after knight takes, we don't continue. Rook takes h7. As I mentioned, there is g8 square. White goes queen to h5. Now, if black continues rook to g7, we can destroy this rook. h7 is hanging, black king is completely destroyed, and white's winning here. After queen h5, if black is trying to escape with king g8, it's also not working. Pause the video and find the checkmate here for white. We continue. Queen takes h7 check, king f8. Now we distract the rook from the defense of h6 square. Queen h8 check, rook g8, and queen h6. After fourth rook g7, white's checkmating. In this test example, it's already a good result if you figured out the idea of knight h4 f5 and bringing the pieces. Of course, once again, it was not the only way of playing, but we are learning the concepts and ideas to figure out the right plans. Good job, and I invite you to go ahead and start with our second.